and welcome to episode 3 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, making and crafting all the things in Southsea Portsmouth on the south coast of England. You can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at hippie_Nikki and on Ravelry at Nikki Hippie. You can find links to all my social media, including the show notes on my blog, just in the box down there. It feels really great to be at episode 3, which is a bit of a lucky number for me. Never thought that I'd ever actually get around to starting a podcast, so being on episode 3 feels like a big deal. Probably not to those people who were on like episode 100, 200, but yeah, it's an achievement. I've done it for 3 weeks in a row, so yay! So, this week's tea is another herbal one. I've had quite a few cups of strong builder's tea this morning, so I decided that needed to put the caffeine away and actually have some really lovely peppermint tea. Not that there is as much caffeine in tea as there is in coffee, and I'm really not a coffee drinker at all, but I have had 2 pumpkin spice lattes in the last couple of weeks when I haven't actually ever tried it before. But everyone kept going on about it and how amazing it was. And I did try Starbucks pumpkin spice loaf. Side note, absolutely amazing. Oh, so tasty. I really want to find a recipe and make it at home because my only criticism would be it was a little bit dry. But this is not the Cake and Possibilities podcast. This is Tea and Possibilities. Or coffee in this instance. But I decided to try the pumpkin spice latte and it was really nice. I only had a very small one and I did find it quite sickly towards the end. So I'm thinking that there must be like a tea equivalent. There must be like a pumpkin spice tea somewhere. So I might venture out, and there's a Holland and Barrett not far from the house. So I'm just thinking I might go there tomorrow and yeah, have a look, see if I can find myself some pumpkin spice. I think it would be really great if you could get like a selection box of tea, because the one thing that really holds me back from buying interesting sounding teas is I think, well, there's like 30 tea bags or 50 tea bags in there, and what if I don't like it? It could be really, really horrible, and then I've just got this box of tea that I don't know what to do with. Which I mentioned on Twitter a few weeks ago, and Kate of A Playful Day actually said you can get selection boxes of tea, which sounds like a really interesting idea, which I'm probably going to look into. My mum's always saying, you know, what do you want for Christmas? So I might put that idea out there instead of getting an actual selection box. It's healthier, right? It's a healthier choice. I've been a lot more productive than I was last week, although still not as productive as I would have liked to have been. I've got it all laid out here in front of me, but I thought I'd start, given that it's getting to that time of year, with what I've been wearing. I can't claim credit for this jumper, unfortunately, which is a shame because it's absolutely beautiful. This was actually a shop bought jumper, but I do really like its reverse stockinette, and the pattern, which you probably can't see, is actually done in stockinette, which is really interesting, and I really love how they've used just a basic, probably a DK weight cream with a very, very fine coloured thread, and they've held them together, it looks like, and that's created this like rainbow all the way through, which I absolutely love. But no, unfortunately, not one of my creations, just one that I really love. Onto one of my own creations. This is one of my favourite makes ever. This may be familiar to you because it is a hugely popular item online. I know Jasmine of the Knitmore Girls is making one. And this is the Bifrost by Infinite Twist. I think they pronounce it Bifrost is the correct pronunciation, but I call it Bifrost because beef roast makes me think of Sunday roasts. It was basically 3 rainbow cakes, and there was this amazing join which I can't remember the name of. I think it was the cleft join, something like that. And they basically caked up all these mini skeins so that all you had to do was knit and then join them as they came up. And you just garter stitched the whole thing. It's done on the bias, but look at it. It is just the most stunning, stunning thing I've ever made. It's just beautiful. And the funny thing is every time I got to a colour, I go, oh God, this is my new favourite. This one, this one, this one. But I think it's probably this jade green here is just gorgeous. I love it. And this blue, see, all the colours. I'm just going to go, I love this one, I love that one. And it goes all the way through the blues, and then we get to this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous purple section, all the way down to a sort of pinky red. And it is just absolutely beautiful. And it gets very chilly in my office at work, so I've started wearing it to work, just around my neck like that. And then when we go out, I will wrap it round a few more times and kind of tuck the ends in. And then I've got my coat on and I just feel a lot warmer because it actually has been getting really cold in the mornings. Because of my ankle injury, I've been getting a lift to work most mornings, so I haven't had to wait for the bus, which is a bonus. But it's still pretty cold until the car warms up, you know. It's chilly, you need your knitwear. Rich popped to London on Monday and picked up a little something for me. Which was this really lovely grey hat from my nan. The story behind this is I went to the Edinburgh Festival just after uni. I think it was just after uni. It might have been between my second and third year, but I'm fairly certain it was after I'd finished. And because it was going to be Scotland and therefore probably a little bit chilly, I asked my nan to knit me a hat. And she knit me this hat in a different yarn, which is now discontinued, sadly, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, what the content was. It was quite scratchy and quite firm. This one's a lot more soft and supple. And the older one went from very dark grey up to very light grey, whereas this is just a solid grey. And unfortunately in the move, when we moved from London to Portsmouth, it seems to have disappeared, which is really sad. Because it's quite a small flat, we can only think that it got scooped up with some of the boxes and put out to charity, which is, yeah, I was really, really upset when I realised it had gone. I mean, I'm still hoping that one day it'll turn up, or when we move again, it'll appear out of somewhere bizarre. But in the meantime, I needed a new hat. And I could have knit it for myself, but this is the hat my nan knit me. So she had to knit me another one. I'd have to look up what yarn it is, but I think it's merino because it is very, very soft. It's definitely wool because it is so warm. I'll just pop it on, which probably is not very flattering because I don't have a mirror, but I can fit all my hair in it. I used to have very long hair, it's recently cut quite short, but I can grow my hair back and there'll be plenty of room in there to fill it up. So yeah, I've been definitely making use of the knitwear this past week. I'm hoping next week maybe I'll have to get out the mitts. It's quite nice to add, you know, little knitted accessories before you have to dive right into like actual big coat weather, because big coat weather is just really not very nice when you have to get the bus quite early in the morning. So yeah, I'm really, really chuffed to be using my lovely knitwear again. And the fact that it gets a bit chilly in the office is a bonus because it means I can just wrap myself up in rainbows. So this week, what have I actually been working on? Well, first up, I finished the first row of my Cozy Memories blanket. And I feel very, very stupid because, as I said, my ankle's still quite painful. It's quite difficult to get to work on the bus, just because, you know, it's just awkward. So my partner Rich has very kindly been picking me up and dropping me off. And it was only yesterday, which was Friday, and which I'm hoping will be the last time I need a lift, that I realised I could take my knitting with me. I don't like to knit on the bus, just because, you know, it's very tight, it's very close, it's another bag to have to manage. And I tend to do a lot of my reading on the bus to and from work. Otherwise I don't really get any reading done. But I thought in the car, well, I can't really read because then you can't make conversation. Knitting was perfect. And I literally didn't realise that until yesterday. So I could have got quite a bit more done, but unfortunately it just didn't occur to me. But I did finish up the 2 balls that I showed you last week. So that's Queen of Hearts by My Mama Knits, and this one by Kate Celine, which is the one that I said I wanted to make a cardigan out of, and knit up I want it even more because it's just perfect, because it's neutral but without being just plain grey. I really, really like that. So this is going to be a really wide blanket, and it won't stay up, will it, at the moment? It's going to be really wide, and I'm thinking, I'm being ambitious, 25 rows, I think. It's going to take me quite some time, but I've got about enough minis for 3 more rows, I think, or possibly 2 more rows, bringing it up to 3. So I've got, you know, quite a bit to go before I have to worry about getting more. And then this morning I discovered that Love Knitting have just released their beautiful sock yarn advent calendar. So I might get that and knit a square on this for every ball I get out of it, and just have this whole Christmas section just right in the middle, which would be great, wouldn't it? It would be brilliant. It would be pretty much nearly 2 whole rows. It's 15 squares long. So yeah, it'd be about, you know, just over 2.5 rows. I mean, it's an investment, right? Right? That being said, I have already got the Yankee Candle advent calendar, so maybe I shouldn't be greedy. Next up, although not very much work was done on this, was my Lily Pilly. I literally only put 2 more rows on it. 2 more coloured rows, I should say, so 4 rows in total. I am about halfway through this first garter stitch section, so I think what I might do is put my Cozy Memories blanket down this week and just work on this. This I think is going to be pretty perfect. I've been showing you the wrong way around, I'm sorry. Okay, that's the right way around. I think this is pretty perfect bake-off knitting, actually, because it's so mindless and so lovely. It's really nice. I started knitting on it and just had that moment of, why was I putting you down? Like, why haven't I picked you up in so long? Because it's just lovely and I can't wait to get to the blue. So I think I might commit to this a little bit more and then go back to my Cozy Memories once I've made a little bit more headway on that. But I think what I'm going to dedicate the rest of today to is my mini Weasley jumpers. Because last week I showed you this one and I still haven't woven in the ends. There he is. And last night I finished this one, which is in exactly the yarn that I knit my Harry Potter jumper out of, and I just cast on last night without thinking, using the same needles that I'd made this one out of in fingering, forgetting that this is Aran weight. So it is the sturdiest, most bulletproof little jumper known to man. But I really don't mind because it is just going to go on the Christmas tree. So, you know, and even this one in fingering weight doesn't really have arms that hang down so much. Sort of they stick out too. So I'm not too worried about that. And I do really, really want a little one for me that is an absolute miniature of my one. But maybe I'll go up a needle size when I knit another blue one. The most fiddly part about this jumper is the neck, which would not be so much of an issue, I don't think, if I'd got shorter DPNs, but all my DPNs are quite long, so you can imagine it's not the most fun. but it can be so fiddly, but thankfully it's only the teeny tiniest bit, so it's not a problem. And then this morning I started another one, which is out of the yarn that I knit my cabled Hogwarts socks out of. That's not the pattern name, that's just what I thought a Hufflepuff would wear in their common room, so I called them my Hogwarts socks. As you can see, I've got one arm. I need to do one more arm, the neckline, and just sew it all up. I love this one. I think it looks like, you know those knitting patterns that you get from like the 70s or 80s? And there's this guy on the front cover, and he's got like a perfectly straight parting, and maybe he's got a pipe, and he just looks so wholesome and like a 50s throwback, but it's in this really sort of semi, 1970s garish green background or something. But this is the jumper he would be wearing, this very wholesome, very simple jumper. And I just think that's the funniest thing. It just made me laugh when I was putting it together, and I was like, this looks very familiar, and I can't think, that's why. That is why. I'm not sure who's going to get this. Maybe several people, because I have got loads left. So I might make another 2. And I'm just looking at these little jumpers. So I've got 2.5 so far. And I'm just thinking, I've got 5 to make, so that's 1 into each stocking. And I would like to make Rich and I one, so that's 7. And if I've pretty much done 3, that's only 4 more to make. And I've got a weekend. I can't do anything because my ankle is still holding me back slightly. So maybe next week I'll just have a brilliant little jumper wardrobe to show you. I mean, that's probably completely nuts because that's a lot of mini jumpers to make, but I could do that, and then I could spend a week knitting on my Lily Pilly. So, spoiler alert, you might be getting a lot of jumpers next week. 7 tiny FOs. I wonder what Snow White would say. So yeah, that's it for Whipped Up this week, and now let's move on to Goal Power. Last week I showed you my bullet journal and talked you through the plans I had for it for the coming quarter, and now I've actually drawn them all out, they're all in here, so I thought I would show you what it actually looks like. So I started out, as I said last week, by plotting out the next 3 months. So previously, as I'd said, I was just drawing out a month as it came up, and I didn't really have anything over the next few pages about the next months or anything like that. So what I did was I drew out October over 2 pages, and then we've got, oops, skipping straight to December, November, and then we've got December. And already I've filled out anything I've got coming up, and just having it to hand instead of having to flick all the way back to the calendars at the front is just so easy. I really love it. And again, I'm tracking my things that I want to track daily. I'm tracking just directly into the calendar. Sadly, there are no little green gym squares at the moment because I can't get there. So it just makes it so much easier to see what I'm up to. I've also, I don't know if you'd be able to see it, but I usually do just a dotted line to differentiate between each day, and then at the beginning of each week I do a solid line just so I can see at a glance, okay, so that's the Monday, that's the weekend. It just makes it a bit quicker. So let's skip past December, and the next thing I talked about doing was setting some goals. So what I did was I drew out my goals for the last quarter of the year, and there are only 2 main ones. It's a very stressful time of year. I didn't want to overload myself because it's much better to set a few goals and actually reach them. Makes you feel a lot better about yourself and more I think it makes you more likely to actually set goals and keep them in the future if you actually manage to achieve them in the first place. So my first goal was have a stress-free Christmas. And I broke this down into 4 main to-dos. The first one being book catch-ups early. Because I now live in Portsmouth, going back to London to meet friends involves a little bit more planning. And when you actually go back and look at December, particularly this year with Christmas Day and Christmas Eve falling on the weekend, there are not that many free weekends in December. So I wanted to make sure I booked them in nice and early, and then I was committed to the things that I wanted to commit to. So seeing friends and doing all that kind of thing over and above other things that I might kind of feel like, oh, well, I suppose I am free. I wanted to prioritise the things that were important. So I'm hoping to get those booked in by the end of October. I know, I'm that person. It's like, what are you doing in December? But yeah, I've pretty much agreed all but one of them, which is really, really good. I'm really proud of that. So after prioritising get-togethers and, you know, seeing the people that I absolutely, definitely want to spend time with, the next step was finish all my making early, which I have broken down into the mini jumpers, which I'm aiming to finish by the end of this month. The designs for the stockings, which again I want to get finished by the end of October. The actual designs themselves stitched up, I want them finished by the end of November, which I think is pretty doable. I'm hoping to get those designed this weekend, next weekend, so I might actually get a head start on the stitching. And finally, my Christmas puddings. I always try and get them made before Halloween, so I think I'm probably going to get the ingredients this week and make them next weekend, and then they can be put away and they're done and I don't have to worry about them. And then all my making will be done before the 1st of December, which means I can just go into the festive season and completely enjoy it. The third step for me was getting all my buying done fairly early. So I want to have had my cards list written and decided on by the middle of November so that I can buy the cards before the end of November. Actually, I really enjoy writing Christmas cards in December, so I just would like to have them there ready for when I've got, you know, a spare afternoon and I want to put on some carols and write all my cards. So they're there and I can take advantage of a spare afternoon. The last thing is finish all my shopping by the end of November, which gives me, I mean, we're still sort of at the beginning of October, so it gives me almost 2 months, which is plenty of time. It means I can spread the cost. It means that if anything comes up in December that I think, oh God, I didn't buy that person a present, or actually I should have got that thing. Again, it spread the cost, and it's not going to be a massive, massive trial to have to go out or to order something and, you know, has everything arrived? It's not going to be an issue. It just gives me a lot more breathing space. The very last thing was to schedule in fun days. So I've got, you know, a little list, which I probably will be adding to over the next couple of months. I want to make sure I have a baking day. I want to make sure I watch Elf. I'm toying with the idea of putting ice skating down, but I might wait until a bit nearer the time so I actually know what state my ankle is in and whether that's a good idea. I don't want to put it down and then feel I shouldn't do it and be a bit disappointed. So yeah, that's how I plan to have a stress-free Christmas. I know there are plenty of people who don't even want to be thinking about Christmas at this point, but when I have done that, it's always just ended up making December this really stressful time, and it's just so much easier to start early, and then you can really, really enjoy time with people, the music. You know, you can go out and see all the window displays without it being, oh God, I've got to get in there and actually buy some stuff. You can just enjoy it, and that's the bit that I really like about Christmas. Because I am a planner junkie, I did consider getting a specific Christmas planner. I know that Kath Kitson does one, but I'm holding off because I just think that, you know, I can put everything that I need in my bullet journal and it's just one more thing to have. I might go and have a look at it for inspiration, but I think I'm probably going to not get that, I think. I mean, don't quote me on that when I potentially buy it. The second big goal that I set myself for the quarter was to learn a lot more dyeing techniques. As I've mentioned before, yarn dyeing is something very new to me, something that I just really love doing, so I just really want to learn and learn and learn and learn. But because my time is limited, I can only really dye at the weekends, and I haven't been able to dye for the past couple of weeks because I'm looking for yarn, first and foremost, and B, I can't really stand in the kitchen for too long at the moment. So it's not a great combination, and I just wanted to be a little bit more targeted in the things I wanted to learn. And what I did was, I think I mentioned this in my first episode, there's this great book, Hand Dyeing Yarn and Fleece by Gail Callahan. And this is a really, really good book, and it's got loads of techniques in it. And I have been skimming through it, and I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the techniques in this book into a step-by-step. So October is dedicated to immersion dyeing. She has about 5 techniques in the book. I don't have to do them all, but you know, I could maybe on one day try 2, you know, it all depends. November, I'm going to have a go at hand painting, and December is going to be dip and dye. I'm really, really looking forward to this. This is by no means an exhaustive, you must follow this list. If in November I find that I have done all my hand painting in one gloriously colourful weekend, I can then go back maybe and try some immersion dyeing, one of the techniques that I haven't got around to. So yeah, it just feels like a really nice way to kind of track what I'm doing and to kind of go, oh, you know, I've got some time to dye this weekend, but which one did I want to try? I can't tell. I've got more of a guide here than if I was just kind of splashing about. Last of all, I've got a little list down here which inevitably reads, thoughts for 2016 goals, when what I clearly mean is 2017. But, you know, it's going to take me till March next year anyway to start writing 2017, so start as you mean to go on. The only reason I've started this is because around this time of year I start thinking about, you know, what would I like to do next year? What kind of different things do I want to do? And it helps to write them down. Just like the gift list that I mentioned last week, inevitably January is going to roll around and I won't remember all the great ideas I had for what to do next year. It helps to have something to refer back to. At the moment, it just reads, brioche knitting, attend a fibre festival, and take a class. That's all it reads at the moment. I don't know yet what kind of class I want to take. I've been considering taking maybe a spinning class, but I'm also considering doing something completely unknitting and yarn related, and maybe doing soap making. There's a really great class, I think at Toft, Alpaca Stud, where they spend the day with you teaching you all about alpacas and how to rear them. And I think that is like my dream. So maybe it's take classes. But yeah, I really recommend breaking down your goals, particularly at this time of year when time is just going to start racing and you're going to turn around and it's going to be January. It just helps keep everything calm and make you feel like you've really achieved something at the end of the year, which, you know, who doesn't want that? Today's knit and natter is a little bit of a serious one, just because it's something I've been thinking about a lot this week. As I mentioned last week, I have got a bit of an ankle injury from falling down the stairs a couple of weeks ago. I am still on a crutch, not so much around the house and not so much if I'm only going a short distance, but to get to work I am still taking it just for the reassurance more than anything else. It is still quite painful. I was hoping to get to the gym this morning, but unfortunately that did not happen. It was quite sore when I got up, and I decided to listen to my body and rest. I am by no means an incredibly athletic person at all. I'm not competitive at all, I'm not particularly sporty, but I do like the gym for various reasons. The first is body confidence. Just going to one class makes me feel better about myself, even though you won't see any difference after just one class. It just makes me feel good about myself. I spend a lot of time sitting. My hobbies are all, yarn related. I work in an office, so I spend an awful lot of time on my bum. And I do often crave movement. So that's another reason why I go. And the last reason is anxiety. I do not suffer with anxiety with a capital A. That is a horrendous condition, and I do not suffer from that. And I just want to make that really clear, because what works for me, for my kind of everyday anxiety, may not work for you if you suffer from, really crippling anxiety. But this is just what works for me. Anxiety for me tends to manifest in my sleep patterns. I can sleep anywhere. I will inevitably fall asleep on long car journeys, no matter whether I'm tired or not. I have been known to curl up on the seat of a sleeper train when we couldn't get a berth and sleep there. I can sleep anywhere. But when I'm anxious, I will inevitably, like clockwork, wake up at 5 o'clock, listing all the things in my head that need to be done. Now, I started off combating this by making lists. That is where my bullet journal came in. That's why I got so into organising, because that was a way of managing my stress levels and the fact that I would get quite anxious. If I feel I've got a very busy day, the first thing I do is write it down, because seeing it all written down, inevitably it doesn't ever look as bad on paper as it does when you're just listing them in your head and then going back and listing it again. It stops being this cascading list and becomes something that you are now in control of. When it's written down, you can also see, okay, well, I can do this while I'm doing this. I've got loads of laundry to do. I can put the laundry on while I cook dinner. You can start linking things together so that they don't seem like there are so many tasks. So that's one step that I use. I get everything out of my head. But I do find increasingly that I actually need a little something else. And for me, that is going to the gym. So no matter whether I've had a really, really good day and I'm buzzing about how, I'm really great at my job and I had a great day, or if I've had a really, really rubbish one, going to the gym helps. I usually go to the gym and do some cardio and then some weights, or I go to a spinning, Pilates or Insanity class. At the weekends, I tend to go swimming and to a legs, bums and tums. So why does that work for me? It mostly helps me work off all the energy from the day. So whether it's really buzzing and, kind of not being able to let work go, or if it's, I've just had a really rubbish day, it just helps change my energy levels. It either brings them up or it brings them down, and it just balances me out. And it also provides a real strong marker between work and home, because usually I go to the gym straight from work and it just kind of goes, okay, you're done now. Now this is your time. I come home, I have a lovely shower, and then I can sit really calmly and really savour things like, my knitting or my sewing or, Star Trek on the TV. It also helps me sleep. So when I combine writing things down with working out, not only do I feel healthier, I feel mentally a lot more healthy and more able to cope. So, as you can imagine, the last couple of weeks have not been ideal. I have found myself, from about Wednesday onwards of the week just gone, waking up at 5 o'clock again going, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And don't forget this and don't forget that. And it's just not helpful. So I am going to try and go swimming tomorrow, just to kind of ease myself back into my body and not spend so much time locked up in my head. I think that we all suffer from stress and anxiety, whether it is really crippling and debilitating, or whether it's just kind of the day-to-day anxiety and stress. And when it is just the day-to-day anxiety and stress, I feel like we can always dismiss it as, oh, well, you're supposed to feel anxious, you're supposed to feel stressed, that's just life. And it's not, okay? You don't have to feel like that. And for me, I make a really deliberate attempt to avoid that. So, you know, I use all the things that I can, all the tools available to me that I know work for me. And, you know, I'm sure some people will think, well, you know, it's normal to get stressed at work. It's normal to, you know, be thinking about your to-do list on the way to work. And yeah, that's normal, but it's not much fun. And for me, I just think that whether you suffer from mental illness or you don't, your mental health is as important as your physical health. And if you're taking the time to watch what you eat and get enough exercise and treat your body really well, you should spend the same amount of dedication for your mind, and you should look after it. Thank you for coming to spend episode 3 with me. I have been a tiny bit grumpy this week because I'm just a little bit bored of stumping about on a crutch. But it has been really lovely to sit and chat with you, and I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you'll join me next week for another cup of tea. Take care, bye.